Well, thank you, everyone. It's really my distinct pleasure to introduce Senator Schumer to you and welcome him to Lowville, Lewis County Health System, Lewis County General Hospital. Senator, my name is Jerry Kieran. On behalf of
from New Hampshire.
Maine.
Somewhere up there.
As a result, we get some Poland spring water. On behalf of the Board of Managers, the Board of Legislators, the medical staff, our medical director, the management team, all of our employees, welcome to Lowville. We're pleased to have you here. The Senator is going to speak today on the ACA Medicaid dish cut, so a topic dear and near to our hearts, as well as my colleagues in the other hospitals of the North Country. So welcome.
Thank you, Jerry. Pleased to be here. Please excuse the informality. I feel bad. I just came back from 6-7 hours of fishing on Lake Ontario. We went out of Clayton, and I caught 3 nice-sized smallmouth bass. So I felt very good, and went with a few people who are leaders in this area as well. We had a great time. But so I'm advertising a New York liquid product. Saranac Black and Tan. I recommend it. It's brewed in Utica, New York, my father's hometown. Okay, and I want to thank everyone for being here. We not only have Jerry from the Lewis County Health System, but we have David Acker, the CEO of Canton Potsdam Hospital. We have Tim Carmen, the CEO of Samaritan, who we've dealt with before. We have Richard Chartrand, he's the alleged representative of the Lewis County Healthcare System, and Rob Bloom, CFO of Carthage Hospital. We also have a good number of our local elected officials, and I thank you all for coming. Randall Schell, Lowville Supervisor. Thank you, Randall. We have Lewis County Chair of the Lewis County Legislature, Larry Dahlhoff. Where'd you go, Larry? There you are. I saw you a minute ago. We have Greg Kalzer. He's from District 7 of Lewis County. And Andrea Morahan. She's the County Legislator of District 6. And Tom Osborne from District 9. Did I leave anybody out? No? Maybe you, young man.
The county managers.
Oh,
Brian Pichet, yeah.
And our county manager is here as well, so thank you. And that man is the chief surgeon. I also want to thank all of you. How many of you here work here at Lewis County Hospital? Well, thank you, because you are doing the most important job probably that anyone can have, dealing with God's most precious gift to us, life. Anyone who has relatives or has been in a hospital themselves know that hospitals are special places. And I have been continually impressed with just the dedication of the people who work in our hospitals, whether they be the CEOs or the top doctors, the nurses, the administrators, the clerks, the physical therapists, you name it, all the way down to the people who come late at night and clean the floors. There's a special way about people who are in hospitals, probably because they're dealing with other people in need. And people who decide to work in hospitals have that special little gene themselves. So thank you all for the good work that you do here and make this hospital an outstanding one. Now, I'm here because I have been sort of one of the nation, probably there are 2 of us who are the leading defenders of rural hospitals. You wouldn't think, well, why would a New York senator be? New York has the 3rd largest rural population in America, and we have scores of rural hospitals. And in many counties, they're the largest employer. In many here in Lewis County, there are over 700 people. I've gotten more jobs at Philadelphia Cream Cheese, but we still have more people than that. I think they've gotten 100 new people in the last while because we were able to work with Heinz Kraft to make sure they added a new product line. They're now not. I love to go there, by the way, because they have 28 flavors of cream cheese, and they give you a sample of each one. The cardiologists here would not approve, but it's my phone. I still have a flip phone, folks. Putin is not listening in on me. I'll show you how important that is. That's my wife. So So how important you are. But in any case, if it's important, believe me, she'll call again and he'll rush up and give you the phone. But I have always defended our rural hospitals, and we've always put together special programs that help our rural hospitals. When you're a rural hospital, every person living in a more rural area like Lewis County deserves the same health care as anybody in a big city like Albany or New York City. But it's harder. It's harder because people live further distances away. It's harder because the new machines that are so important to diagnosing our health cost a fortune. And if you're in a big city, you can operate those machines almost 24/7. If you're in a rural area, you can't. But why should people here be deprived of those? And because a lot of people in rural areas have lower incomes, but don't quite qualify for Medicaid. A lot of people are elderly, so there's a lot of Medicare. For all those reasons, step right up. Red number 2. That's what this says. Red number 2. But so it's really important to go out of our way to help rural hospitals, and I have done that. And I have defended programs that deal with hospitals who have high Medicare and low Medicaid, or have low volume, what it's called. But probably the most important program that helps our rural hospitals is the one we're here to talk about today. It has a funny sounding name. It's called Medicaid Disproportionate Share. And that sounds a little complicated, but it simply means that if the hospital has a high number of uninsured or underinsured or low-income patients, it should get help. Unlike the other things I've done for rural hospitals, this one isn't just aimed at rural hospitals. It helps a lot of hospitals. But our rural hospitals, because they have all these great burdens, run at a very thin margin. And so any extra hit on the head from the federal government could really hurt. And that could mean, 1, layoffs. 2, even worse, as bad as layoffs are, not the top-notch health care that these hospitals represented here will give. So we must not allow the disproportionate share program to expire. It's very, very important. And by the way, it matters to our military, because the hospitals here in Lewis County and in Jefferson County treat a lot of the people from Fort Drum and their families, and they depend on these types of disproportionate share programs as well. So we have to deal with this issue. Hospitals that need disproportionate share, like LCGH, are very much in jeopardy if this program expires. Let me give you some numbers. The Medicaid DSH program is supposed to be slashed by October 1st. That's not very far away. This administration, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're not going to like it, has wanted to cut $4 billion out of this program. And that is not good. And that's just next year. If they do it for every 10 years, New York State will lose $7 billion for our hospitals, and that will disproportionately fall on our rural hospitals. So I am here today to say we're going to do everything we can to get this undone, this cut. And every New York congressman, every Democrat, every Republican, including your congresswoman here from, I guess Stefanik is the congresswoman from Lewis County, signed that letter. We all did. We all did. And let me give you some of the numbers. In 2018, disproportionate share gave $3.6 billion to the hospitals in New York. And let me tell you what it would mean for our hospitals here in the North Country. It would mean Lewis Hospital would get $6 million in cuts over the next decade. Okay? Similarly, I have the numbers here, and I'm going to read them even though they're not in my press release. Gouverneur, up in Gouverneur, New York, she's amazed I pronounced it right. You know, I'm not like one of these New York City politicians who doesn't understand upstate. Messina, $4.3 million. Claxton Hepburn, $1.6 million. Canton Potsdam, $440,000. Clifton Fine, $524,000. Carthage, $1.1 million. Samaritan, $5.5 million. And River, $1.2 million. That's a lot of money when a hospital is struggling. When we want to pay good salaries to our workers here so they will want to stay and be able to support their families. And when we want the best possible care. Now, it's not just about the money, though. It's about the patients. Lewis County LCGH is the largest, the main provider in Lewis County. It just expanded to the village of Copenhagen. Just, right? Didn't you do, where's Jerry? Didn't you do that?
Clinic going up there.
They put a clinic up there. And because LCGH operates the primary care service line at a deficit, it will hurt this hospital's ability to recruit new doctors and offer primary care. We all know how important primary care is. You don't have good primary care, it's real trouble. You get a bad diagnosis or a misdiagnosis early on, it can lead to bigger trouble later on, and that happens all the time when you don't have good primary care. In addition, LCGH here has great OBGYN and newborn delivery services. It's one of 2 critical access hospitals in New York State that offer this. And the dish cuts could hurt that as well. And for all of our hospitals, they could hurt those services, and they could hurt adult care, sleep lab, audiology, home health, and hospice. So we can't let this go through. We can't let this go through. This hospital is vital. All the hospitals I've mentioned are vital. Vital to the communities for great health care, vital to jobs, vital to the economic viability of these areas. And so I am here to promise all of our executives and all of our legislators that I will use all the clout that I have as minority leader of the Senate to stop these awful, unfair, and nasty cuts from occurring. And with that, I'm going to call on Jerry to say a few more words.
So $6.2 million over 10 years will have a profound impact on our ability to recruit and retain the highest level of primary care and specialty care. The services that the Senator referenced, he is right on target. Our ability to sustain a modest margin so we can reinvest in the organization, reinvest in the medical community, and reinvest in our workforce is vital, which is why the Medicare dish cuts are disproportionate to us. In the North Country, LCGH would have the highest level of impact. In Representative Stefanik's district, we would have the second highest level of impact if these cuts occur. So I thank the Senator for coming up, validating that these cuts would be harmful, and validating that our role in the broader economy is also very important. We are the largest employer in Lewis County, and without LCGH, I think the economic backbone of Lewis County would be severely impacted. So it's not about staying pat, it's about continuing to grow and invest in those services that are appropriate for a rural community hospital.
Any of our executives want to add something?
I will.
Just tell the folks who you are.
My name is David Acker. I'm the CEO of St. Lawrence Health System. We run Canton Potsdam, Governor, and are currently managing Scene Memorial. As the Senator mentioned, primary care is really the anchor by which care is delivered in rural America. And the cuts, all included this year, just for Canton Potsdam Hospital alone, will be right around $2 million. One of the most difficult cuts, in addition to the dish payment, is the implementation, this is the second year of it, of a misguided federal policy where off-campus primary care clinics will no longer receive differential needed to enable us to continue to hire these primary care doctors. Very brave to be going to Copenhagen under adverse circumstances. It's long been recognized that the foundation of community health care in rural America is its medical staff, and it starts with primary care. A recent survey showed that only 5% of residents coming out of primary care residency will even consider going to rural America. So after we go build the buildings, spend millions of dollars, and spend millions of dollars to recruit these precious physicians, and they buy their homes and put their children in school, the federal government, this year in our organization alone, is taking $700,000 away, just like they took $700,000 away last year. And they're gonna keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. This is not only misguided, this is destructive. And I would strongly, strongly urge you to support the senator and get mobilized around this issue, because the primary care basis that is rural hospitals, healthcare in rural communities, is being taken from us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David, for those passionate words. Tom, do you want to say something? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, then we'll take questions from the press. Yes, sir.
Can you just explain a little bit about how these cuts, how they're affected? Is it what was written in the ACA law to begin with, or how are these effects coming into place?
These were not written in the ACA law. These are cuts that the administration, they've been cutting hospitals, the cut that was mentioned by David and the cuts others. The administration doesn't seem to want to put money into health care. And that's not what most Americans believe. Most Americans, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, believe health care is so important that the federal government has to do some backing. It's become more expensive. It's gotten better. I mean, I tell people the story, when everyone complains about health care, and there's reasons to make it better, but when I was a little boy, I had a great-grandmother, and she was 82. And every Wednesday, my grandma would bring my great-grandmother over to our house, and she'd sit on a chair in the kitchen, and all the kids would ride their bikes to the neighborhood, park them in the front, go around to the back of our house, put their face against the kitchen window to see my grandmother. Why? Come to Schumer's house and see the oldest lady in the world. She was 82, and in the 50s and 60s, no one lived to 82. Well, praise God. My parents are 96 and 91, and they're actually in better health at those ages than my grandmother was at 82. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because of all the people here. It costs money to develop expensive new therapies and drugs. It costs money to have the right care. It costs money to make sure there's a nurse there if, God forbid, you're in a unit and you have a stroke, that someone's right there, because in the first few moments of the stroke, you can arrest it much better than you can if someone sat there for hours, because you only have one nurse on duty for 20 beds or 50 beds. So this all makes a difference. And what is more important than living healthy and long? So that's why this stuff has happened, because the administration has just been, nasty about it. And we've never had these kind of things before. Yes?
If this hospital wasn't here, people would have to go to upstate Syracuse or Chicago, Rochester, somewhere far away. And how do you think that would be like for people from Lewis County in the North Country?
Would be terrible. And I think this was mentioned by Jerry. One of the reasons you get businesses to come and people to come and stay here, before you move to a new area, one of the first questions you ask, if you have kids, how good are the schools? If you're anybody, you ask, is it safe? But everyone asks, do they have a good hospital? So God forbid I get sick, I'll have somewhere to go. And if you can't answer, you have a good, there's a good one 75 miles away. Well, you don't have to be a PhD or a MD to know that if you have to travel 75 miles to get care, lots of bad things could happen. So it matters hugely to just the viability of this region. Yes, ma'am.
So when were these cuts proposed, by whom, and when was it passed?
These cuts, they're trying to do them administratively. We got them reversed 2 years ago or a year ago. We did succeed then, and they proposed them again.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Sanford, so you say the ACA plays no part in these cuts being mandated. They were not part of how the law was written?
Correct. Okay.
One more question, sorry.
Yes.
So
Don't be
Congress...
sorry, you're doing, as they say in Minnesota, your job.
My indeed. So October 1st, it's supposed to go into effect. When will Congress be voting on this?
The next few weeks, we have a budget coming up.
Okay.
And there are lots of different things that need extending. and this is probably at the very top of the list. We also need to extend those other rural programs that most of our hospitals benefit from as well.
So you said it's bipartisan, though. Sorry,
Yes.
follow.
Yes.
You said it's bipartisan. So is generally their support to knock this down?
Look, there are people who want to cut these, but in general, we have gotten in New York State, every member of the congressional delegation, every Democrat, every Republican has signed a letter to the president saying, don't stand for these cuts.
And in the larger circus?
Well, there are, in the larger circus, there are some of the participants, I won't use the word for circus, that want to cut these things. And they just want to cut all of this stuff. In a lot of cases, to give tax cuts to the wealthiest people who have done very well in this new bill, in the new tax bill that came out. And it's not fair. It's just not fair.
So because it's coming through the executive level, are you saying that you need some kind of legislation to reverse the cut?
That is correct.
Okay.
The legislature will always prevail
Yep.
if we pass legislation saying you can't do it,
Gotcha.
whatever it is. Yes.
I wanted to mention, so expanding the tax cuts on the wealthy could be one of the reasons why they're trying to do this. Is there any other reasoning they provided other, because it seems like if
Well,
it
yeah,
has,
here's what they say. They're very removed from reality. Oh, the hospitals have plenty of waste and plenty of money and they can make up for this elsewhere. Can you guys do that? Are you busy wasting all this money? Are you all wasted employees or wasting all your time? I mean, it's ridiculous. You come to a hospital like Lewis, you see that's not true. These people are working their butts off to provide good health care. And they often have to stretch. And I know when my family has had nurses come in off duty or stay overtime to take care of people. Doctors do the same, you know.
Is there a workaround if it doesn't get knocked down in Congress? Is there some?
Well, I don't know what the
Plan B.
workaround would be. We're going to avoid, we have to do everything we can to avoid it. And I'm very hopeful we can.
Okay.
But the more you make it public, the less likely it is to happen. Because there are rural hospitals, and hospitals, broadly defined, all over America. This is not just a New York issue, this is a national issue. But because we have so many rural hospitals, it would disproportionately, that's a bad word, because it's called disproportionate share, but it would more dramatically affect us. Yes?
one more. So you already said that these cuts were defeated 1 or 2 years ago, and you're trying to do the same.
They're reversed.
Yeah, reverse. You're trying to do the same now.
Correct.
Is the public supposed to expect this to happen every 2 or 3 years?
It
or is
shouldn't. Well, we should try to make these permanent. If I got to be majority leader, that's what I would try to do.
That's my question. So how would you? What needs to happen for them to become permanent?
Well, we need a new administration to make them permanent. The most you'll get out of them is 2 years. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Anyone else want to say anything in the general audience? Yes, sir. With the tie-dyed shirt.
Hi, I and my wife, I'm a resident here at the nursing home. I'm also president of the residents.
Thank you. What's your name?
My name is John L. Pope,
Hi, Mr. Pope.
and this is my wife Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
We both are supporters of yours already. Is there anything citizens can do to help you?
Well, just you have your elected officials, the senators and the congresswoman are supporting it. But I would write to her saying how important this is. But I would also, and this is a little stretched, but if you have relatives in other areas, other states, other areas, when you talk to them, just say, please send an email or a little note to your congress member, your senator, to not let this happen because it'll hurt you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And again, let me thank you all for the great work that you do. I mentioned my parents. They celebrated their 70th anniversary April 3rd, which was a blessing, a gift from God. And as I said, that didn't happen by accident. It happened because of the work of people like the people in this room. So thank you. Great. Thanks.